Hello, Jamie here from InkyandScrappy, sharing with you today a new project featuring Lawn Fawn Summer 2022 release and a giveaway and some exciting news. Stay tuned for all of those details. I am starting by using Lawn Fawn's new canvas and easel dyes. I'm inking those with some walnut stain ink, as well as the little stools. I'm doing multiples because, if I'm going to be die cutting and coloring things, I'm going to do it in a large batch because I have a few different ideas for this stuff. So it's easiest for me to do them in a large batch, and then it saves me time in the long run. It probably took me almost 2 hours to die cut and color and piece everything together just for this part of this card. But I have enough supplies for a bunch more projects in the long run. I think I have 4 easels, so I'll have at least 4 more cards out of this one. And so I'm taking alcohol markers to color in all of my die cut pieces here, using some Copic browns, and then I will come in with mostly Ohuhus for all of my colors. And I took the tip of those paintbrush tips and ended up cutting some of the negatives from my ink splats, lining them up so they kind of look like paint on the tip of a paintbrush. So then I will do an extra layer when I layer them together, so it has the paintbrush piece there and then the brush piece, the little silver metallic piece that holds the bristles on, and then a little tiny tip that has the paint on it. So it adds that extra layer of dimension. You could also just color that on there instead, but I just thought that would be a fun little detail. I did cut the little tops out of the metallic, and the one I colored gray or dark gray black, I ended up changing my mind and going over it with the same color of alcohol ink as the tube label is. So for my images today, I stamped out some of them on some Avery removable label sheets, and I ran those through my brother's Scan and Cut. On the line, as you can tell, they're not perfect on the line because mine is just a little bit off, but they do line up fairly good here, so I can get them on and use them as my masks. So I start by stamping the main unicorn image because she will be on top or he will be on top. My unicorn will be on top or the closest to the eye, and then I stamp the inner tube, and then I put the shoes off to the side, so the shoes are on top too, I guess. And then I will mask all of those things off, and then I will come in and do some ink blending with some stencils over the top to make them look like a pool, like pool water, and then the tile that's next to the pool. But I could also have done, I had also thought about doing a beach scene, so it would have been water and then sand instead of the tile. Either one works. I'm using the MFT pool stencil for this. You could also use any kind of animal pattern, I think. Anything that's not symmetrical, anything that has an irregular shape or pattern too. I've seen cheetah print ones. Those would work well too, so you wouldn't have to go out and buy a special stencil if you have a cheetah print style pattern or an animal print pattern to get that same look. You just continually rotate it so you get different areas colored in. And using a dye ink as opposed to like an oxide or a pigment, you get the translucent color through, so you get the different variations, and it gives you that water look. So for the pool tiles, I picked a finer square looking stencil there to give me that pool style look. And then I will just come in and remove the masks, because it's always the fun reveal to see the little blank areas. I don't know. And so for those little areas that I missed on the pool die cut, I'm just going to do some tip to tip with a similar shade of blue. And this lightens that blue up enough to match my pool water there. And then it'll just fill it in. And then I go in with a fine line marker. This one was a Copic friendly marker. And then I just fill in wherever my lines might not have been perfect with my stamping because of my mask being there. Just connecting them or closing in anything that wasn't quite done. And then I'm just going to color in the rest of my images, keeping it fairly simple. And so for the giveaway, I have a All the Party Hats stamp set, which was Lawn Fawn's free with order if you order directly from them. It was only available for the first week of release week, and I have an extra set to give away to one of my subscribers. This is a thank you for helping me reach that 500 subscriber mark, and I'm sure I will do it again when I get to that 1,000 mark. So thank you all for all of those who have subscribed and continue to subscribe. To be eligible, you need to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment below, and I will pick a winner by June 15th. I will just continue to color in my image here, matching that one that I had colored earlier. So I had done a no line coloring on the unicorn from Big Dream, thinking that because I'm using all die cuts, that it would kind of blend in better with the all die cuts, because die cuts don't have that black edge, and I wanted my unicorn to kind of go with the rest of my scene on that one. And so I colored him out off screen, but I did a no line coloring and I used Copics to color him. Usually if I do no line, I do zig. So this one was new for me, and I'm not going to say the first one turned out. That was actually my second one. Because, yeah, it's all good. And the best part of having a scan and cut is if I was off a little bit, you can't tell because, you know, the scan and cut goes around my lines, not what was supposed to be my line. I did end up having to use a little bit of pencil to connect the green and the red because it did not recognize the yellow in the scan. So just pay attention to that if you are using your scan and cut for that option. Those no line watercoloring, if that image is not clear, it will not cut like you want it to cut. So just pay attention to where your cut lines are. For my card back, I chose some watercolor wishes in that polka dot pattern. I wanted to keep it fairly simple because the rest of my card is fairly full and busy. And so this gave me a little bit of color to that background, but not a whole lot that takes away from the actual scene. I wanted that canvas on the easel to be kind of my, you know, one of my bigger focal points. And so I didn't want the background to kind of draw that out. And it is a busier scene. You could have used that water pool scene as your actual focal point on your card altogether, and you wouldn't have needed to do anything else. But, you know, I like to be extra sometimes, and so it is definitely a full scene. I used a piece of white. I actually just used a back piece, the back side of that watercolor wishes paper, because the 6x6 is white on the back, for my trim border. And then I'm just going to play here with some placement and kind of figure out how it's going to go together. We'll start with setting the easel. And then I decided that my unicorn was probably tall enough. I didn't need him to be on the chair because I didn't want him to cover up that scene that I had created on my easel. And I will pop the actual canvas up. One, because that I had used a wood grain cardstock to cut my easel, and it's a heavier weight, and so this, I used a very thin foam on the edges there, so it just gives a little bit more support. And then for this little water dish or cup, from the jar that's in the art supplies, I had thought it would be really cool to make it kind of like a ceramic jar with a fun little saying on it. So that's probably what I'm going to do with most of them, because is that not adorable? That Dream Big fits perfectly on there, and I'm pretty sure I have a bunch of sentiments that would fit that little jar. And then I'm just going to tuck in my brush here. So this one I had already done all my brushes, and I was like, well, if I'm going to stick the brush in the jar, I don't need to do the extra with the tip and the paint on the tip. So I went and die cut a couple more out and just painted the handles and then glued on the silver part of the paintbrush. So it still looks like a full paintbrush, but it's, you know, not really. And then I'm going to take my paintbrush, an extra paintbrush, and then I'm going to put that on, glue that to my unicorn. So it looks like the unicorn's holding onto the paintbrush. And then I was just trying to figure out how I was going to film my scene, where I wanted my unicorn to stand. And then I'm going to pop him up on a thicker foam, because I popped the Dream Big up on a thinner piece of foam tape. And then my unicorn here is on some 3M foam adhesive, which is a little bit thicker. And I will also pop up the palette with that thicker foam tape as well. And then I will add in all of my little ink pats, or my paint pats, sorry. And for my easel, I had just taken a warm gray, like the lightest, I think, a W1 on the outside there to give it some contrast, and then blended that out with the blender brush. And then for my paint tubes, the purple one I just glued down, and then the pink one I popped up on some thin foam tape to give that a little bit more of some added dimension. And then I'm trying to pick out a card base. So I had some pre-colored card bases, so I'm just going to use one of those. And I was really leaning between the green and the pink. The green kind of makes the green pop, but there's so little green in the card, I kind of liked the pink a little bit better, so I went with the pink one. And then, so Dream Big on the front is my sentiment. And then on the inside, I stamped, "May all of your wishes come true." Of course, my wishes is for a relaxing pool day, or at least that's what this unicorn is doing, a relaxing little pool day. And then I'll stamp in those little flip-flops. And we'll put this card base on top. So my other exciting news is I have a image that was picked up by Ink Road Stamps. It is a Harry Coo. So the set goes on sale for pre-order today, June 1st. I don't know when this video is going to load because we don't have internet yet. The storm took it out. So the stamp set called Crazy Mother Heifer comes out June 1st for pre-order. And if you are new to Ink Road Stamps, she does pre-orders for all of her stamps. You can get them once they are in-house. So a pre-order is usually 8 to 10 weeks out. But if it sells out in pre-order, she might not get more in, and you might end up waiting another 8 to 10 weeks if they all get sold out on pre-order. So I drew the Harry Coo for that stamp. I am super excited to be able to, I don't know, have a stamp set of an image that I drew. So Laura did an amazing job turning my little sketch into a digitized image, and ultimately it will be a cling stamp. So go check that one out. I will link that below. And there is the finished card. And I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you so much for subscribing. And again, so this is the stamp set that is up for, a prize. So make sure you comment and subscribe, and I will pick a winner by June 15th, 2022. Thank you